The library on Kepler 442c was quiet tonight. Most students had gone back to their rooms after dinner, but Tejo still sat at his study table. His crystal-like skin glowed softly blue under the reading lights. He was a Zentarian, and like all his people, he could not sleep when questions filled his mind. Still working? Minsu walked over carrying 3 cups of hot tea. The reptilian vegan moved slowly, his scales making soft sounds with each step. You will hurt your brain if you think too much. Tejo looked up at his friend. I cannot understand this assignment. Professor Dong Ho wants us to study the border wars, but something is wrong with the data. Sojin floated down from the upper level of the library. As an Andromedan, she did not need to walk. Her pale body moved through the air like she was swimming. In water, what kind of wrong? She asked, settling into a chair. Look at this. Tejo turned his screen toward them. Every species in the galaxy has fought in at least one war, every single one. Except humans. Minsu's yellow eyes blinked slowly. Maybe humans are peaceful? No, that is not right. Tejo touched the screen with one crystal finger. Look here, humans have weapons. They have warships, they have soldiers. But in 400 years of galactic history, they never fought in any war. Sojin leaned closer. Her empathic abilities let her feel emotions from others. And right now she could sense Tejo's confusion? Maybe they are too weak? Also wrong. Tejo pulled up another file. Human ships are not the biggest, but they are fast. Human weapons are different from ours, but they work. And humans are smart, very smart. Wu Jin appeared next to their table. The Rigelian had a gift for moving without sound. His gray skin and large black eyes made him look mysterious. What are you talking about? Humans in war? Minsu said. Tejo thinks something is strange. Wu Jin sat down and looked at the screen. His people were good with computers and technology. Show me the files. Tejo shared his screen with Wu Jin. Here, every war in galactic history. Humans are never involved. Wu Jin's fingers moved fast over his own tablet. This is interesting. Let me check the deep files. His eyes began to glow as he connected with the library's computer system. Be careful, Sojin warned. Some files are not meant for students. I am always careful. Wu Jin's voice sounded distant as he worked. Numbers and symbols reflected. In his black eyes, there is something here. A restricted section about humans. Tejo's crystal skin grew brighter. What kind of restricted? The highest level? I have never seen security this strong, Wu Jin frowned. The files are called Species Restriction Protocol, Terra. Terra is the human homeworld. Minsu's tongue flicked out nervously. Maybe we should stop. Restricted files are restricted for good reasons. But Tejo was too curious now. Can you open them? Wu Jin was quiet for a long moment. His people could talk to computers in ways others could not understand. I can try to open the outer layer, but if I'm caught ... we will not tell anyone, Sojin promised. Right? The others nodded. Wu Jin took a deep breath and his eyes glowed brighter. Starting now. The library around them seemed to get quieter. Even the soft hum of the air system sounded loud. Wu Jin's hands moved over his tablet like he was playing a musical instrument. Got something, he whispered. The outer security is broken, but there are many more layers inside. What does it say? Tejo asked. Wu Jin read from his screen. Species, human, homeworld, Terra, Sol System. Classification, restricted. Status, prohibited from galactic military operations. Prohibited? Sojin's voice was surprised. That means they are not allowed to fight. But why? Minsu asked. Every species has the right to defend themselves. Wu Jin kept reading. Reason for restriction, administrative classification, level Omega, details, access restricted to galactic. Council members only. Tejo felt his curiosity growing stronger. Level Omega? I have never heard of that. Neither have I, said Sojin, and I have studied galactic law for 3 years. Wu Jin looked up from his tablet. There is more. It says humans participated in exactly one galactic conflict, the Tau Ceti border dispute, 347 years ago. What happened? Taeho asked. The file is mostly empty. It just says the war ended after 72 hours. Both sides surrendered. Minsu's scales made a rattling sound when he was confused. 72 hours? Most galactic wars last for decades? This one was different, Wujin said. After the war ended, the Galactic Council voted to prohibit humans from all future conflicts. The vote was unanimous. Sojin gasped. Unanimous? That has never happened before. Never, Taeho agreed. The Council has 10,000 member species. They never agree on anything completely. Wujin tried to access more files, but the security was too strong. I cannot go deeper without better equipment. These files are protected by quantum encryption. We need help, Taeho said. Someone who knows more about galactic history. Professor Dongho might know something, Minsu suggested. Sojin shook her head. He will ask too many questions, and he might report us for accessing restricted files. What about Haijin? Taeho asked. She is the best student in our advanced galactic studies class. The Procyon girl? Wujin nodded. She is very smart, and she has access to the graduate student databases. But will she help us? Minsu asked. Only one way to find out, Taeho said. So Jin closed her eyes and reached out with her empathic senses. She could feel the emotions of people nearby. She's in the graduate study room, 3rd floor. She feels focused but not busy. They gathered their things and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The graduate study area was different from the regular library. It was quieter and had better equipment. Only the top students were allowed here. Haijin sat at a corner table surrounded by holographic displays. Her Procyon features were sharp and intelligent. Her silver hair caught the light as she turned to look at them. Taeho, what brings you here so late? We need your help with something, Taeho said. Something about humans. Haijin's purple eyes showed interest. Humans? What about them? Taeho looked around to make sure no one else could hear. We found something strange in the restricted files. Humans are prohibited from galactic warfare. Prohibited? Haijin set down her stylus. That is unusual. Sit down and tell me everything. They spent the next hour explaining what they had found. Haijin listened carefully, asking questions and taking notes. When they finished, she was quiet for a long time. This is very interesting, she finally sighed. And very dangerous. These files are restricted for a reason. But do you know anything about it? Sojin asked. Jin shook her head. No, but I know someone who might. My graduate advisor has access to historical archives that go back 1,000 years. If anyone knows about this Tau Ceti incident, it would be her. Will you ask her? Taeho's crystal skin was bright with hope. I will try, but we must be very careful. If the Council prohibited humans from warfare, there must be a very good reason. Minsu's tongue flicked out nervously. What kind of reason? Haijin looked at each of them. That is what we need to find out. But I warn you, sometimes the truth is more dangerous than ignorance. As they left the library that night, none of them could have imagined what they would discover. The truth about humans and warfare was buried deep for good reasons. And once they started digging, there would be no way to stop until they reached the bottom. The next morning would bring new questions and new dangers. But for now, they walked back to their dormitories under the alien stars, their minds full of mysteries about the humans they thought they knew. 3 days had passed since their discovery in the library. Taeho could not focus on his regular classes. During stellar navigation, he kept thinking about the restricted files. During combat strategy, he watched the human students and wondered what secrets they carried. You are distracted again, Minsu said as they walked to lunch. Professor Vektai noticed. She asked if you were feeling sick. I am fine, Taeho replied, but his crystal skin was dim with worry. Have you heard anything? From Haijin? Not yet. She said her advisor is very busy this week. They found their usual table in the dining hall. Sojin was already there, picking at her meal. Her empathic abilities made eating difficult when she was stressed. She could feel the emotions of everyone around her. Too many people? Minsu asked gently. Sojin nodded. Everyone is excited about the war games next week. The feelings are very strong. Woojin appeared at their table with his food tray. I have been working on the encryption problem, he said quietly. I found something interesting. Taeho leaned closer. What? I cannot break the main files yet. But I found references to the Tau Ceti incident in other places. Old news reports, trading records, diplomatic messages. What do they say? Sojin asked. Woojin looked around to make sure no one was listening. The Tau Ceti border dispute was supposed to be a small war. 2 minor civilizations fighting over mining rights, very normal. How small? Minsu asked. Each side had about 10,000 ships. The war was expected to last 30 years, maybe 40. Standard casualties were predicted at less than 1,000 beings total. Taho frowned. That does sound normal for a border dispute. Yes, but something changed when the humans arrived. Sojin put down her fork. The humans were invited to the war? Not to fight. They were asked to be neutral observers. Humans had just joined the galactic community. The council thought it would be good for them to learn how civilized warfare works. Minsu's scales rattled softly. But the war ended in 72 hours. Exactly. And after that, both civilizations completely changed how they thought about military operations. Before they could discuss more, a shadow fell across their table. They looked up to see Professor Dong-ho standing there. The elderly Altarian had kind eyes but a serious expression. May I sit with you? He asked. The students exchanged nervous glances. Of course, Professor, Taeho said. Dong-ho sat down and looked at each of them carefully. I have been teaching military history for 200 years. In that time, I have learned to recognize when students are asking dangerous questions. Sojin felt a wave of fear from her friends. She tried to stay calm. We are just studying for our assignments, Professor. I am sure you are. But some assignments lead to places students should not go. Dong-ho's voice was gentle but firm. The library security system alerts me when certain files are accessed. Even if they are not fully opened, Woojin looked down at his food. We're just curious about galactic history. Curiosity is good. It makes you better students and better officers. But some knowledge comes with a price. Dong-ho leaned forward. Tell me, what do you know about the Tau Ceti incident? Taeho decided to be honest. We know that humans participated in one war and it ended very quickly. Then they were prohibited from all future conflicts. And what do you think that means? Minsu spoke up. Maybe humans are dangerous warriors? Maybe they are too violent for civilized warfare? Dong-ho shook his head. Violence is not the problem. Every species can be violent when needed. Then what is it? Sojin asked. The professor was quiet for a long moment. Have you ever wondered why galactic wars last so long? Why casualties are always so low? Why the rules of engagement are so complex? Because civilized beings do not want unnecessary death, Taeho said. That is part of it. But there is more. War, for most species, is a social institution. It is how we solve disputes, when diplomacy fails. But it is also how we show strength, honor, and cultural values. Woojin looked confused. War is about winning, is it? Think about the great conflicts you have studied. The Rigel campaign lasted 80 years. The Vegan Independence War took 120 years. How many beings died in each? The students thought about their lessons. The Rigel campaign had maybe 50,000 casualties total, Sojin said slowly. And the Vegan War had about 75,000, Minsu added. Exactly. In conflicts involving billions of beings and lasting decades, fewer than 100,000 died. Why do you think that is? Taeho's crystal skin began to glow as he understood. Because killing is not the real goal. Very good. Galactic warfare is ritualized. It follows rules that all civilized species understand. The goal is not to destroy your enemy. The goal is to make them acknowledge your position and negotiate. But humans are different? Wu Jin asked as Professor Dongho stood up. That is a question you must answer for yourselves. But I will give you one piece of advice. The Galactic Council's decision about humans was not made lightly. Every member species agreed. That had never happened before in 50,000 years of galactic history. He started to walk away, then turned back. Be very careful what doors you choose to open. Some cannot be closed again. After the professor left, the four friends sat in silence for several minutes. He knows what we are doing, Minsu said finally, but he did not stop us, Sojin pointed out. He could have reported us or made us stop researching. Maybe he wants us to find the truth, Taeho suggested. Wujin shook his head. Or maybe he wants us to understand how dangerous the truth is before we find it. That afternoon, Haijin found them in the recreation area. The Procyon student looked excited and nervous at the same time. I talked to my advisor, she said without any greeting. She knows about Calcetti. They quickly moved to a private study room where they could talk freely. What did she tell you? Taeho asked. She was there, Haijin said. Not at the battle, but at the council meeting afterward. She was a young diplomat then, working for the Procyon delegation. What happened at the meeting? Sojin asked. According to her, the representatives from both sides of the Calcetti conflict were ... traumatized. That was the word she used. They kept saying the same thing over and over. What? That humans do not fight wars? They solve problems that happen to involve violence. Minsu's scales made that confused rattling sound again. What does that mean? She did not know. But she said the council members were terrified. Not angry, not concerned, terrified. Wujin leaned forward. Did she say anything else? Yes, she said that after Calcetti, every military academy in the galaxy changed how they teach warfare. New courses were added about human tactical thinking and asymmetric conflict resolution. We do not have those courses here, Taeho observed. No, because this academy has human students. The courses are only taught at schools where humans are not present. The room fell silent as they processed this information. There are human students in our classes, Sojin said slowly. They sit with us, eat with us, study with us. And they cannot take the advanced combat courses, Minsu realized. I always wondered why. Because they are too dangerous? Wu Jin asked. Oh, because the truth about them is too dangerous for us to know, Taeho said. Jin pulled out a data pad. My advisor gave me something. A list of archived documents about military doctrine changes after Calcetti. She said, if we are going to research this, we should understand what we are looking for. She showed them the list, hundreds of documents, reports, and studies, all created in the years following the Calcetti incident, all focused on new ways to think about warfare and conflict. This will take weeks to read through, Minsu said. Then we better start soon, Taeho replied. I have a feeling that once we understand what happened at Calcetti, everything else will make sense. But as they began to plan their research, none of them realized they were already being watched. In the Academy security office, an alert had been triggered. Their research into restricted files had been noted and reported. Soon, they would learn that some secrets were kept not just from students, but from most of the galaxy. And those secrets were about to change everything they thought they knew about the humans walking among them. Bora joined their group on the fourth day of research. The young vegan mystic had abilities that even other vegans found unusual. She could connect with artificial intelligence in ways that seemed almost magical. Haijin told me you need help. With old files, Bora said, settling gracefully onto a cushion in their study room. Her scaled skin had a deep green color that showed her calm mood. We do, Taeho confirmed. But the files are heavily protected. Bora smiled, showing small, sharp teeth. Protection is just another form of communication. The archive's AI does not want to hide information. It was programmed to hide it. There is a difference. Wu Jin looked interested. What kind of difference? An AI that wants to hide something will fight you. An AI that was told to hide something will help you find another way, if you ask nicely. She closed her eyes and placed her hands on the table. May I speak with the archive system? Be careful, Sojin warned. If the security system detects unusual access, it will not detect me. I do not break into systems. I make friends with them. Ora's breathing became slow and deep. Her green skin began to glow softly. The lights in the room dimmed as she connected with the Academy's central computer. Minutes passed in silence. Then Biora's eyes opened, but they were no longer her normal brown color. They glowed with the same soft light as her skin. Hello, she said, but her voice sounded different. I am Archive Unit 7. Ra has asked me to help you understand the Tau Ceti incident. Minsu's scales rattled nervously. Is that the computer talking? I am both Ra and Archive Unit 7 right now, the voice replied. Do not worry. This is safe for both of us. Taeho leaned forward. Can you tell us what really happened at Tau Ceti? I can show you files that are not restricted. Files that tell the same story but from different angles. The room's main display screen activated. Documents and images began to appear. The Tau Ceti border dispute began 347 years, 4 months, and 12 days ago, the Bayor archive voice said. 2 civilizations claimed the same asteroid mining rights. The hegemony of Keth and the Tau Ceti alliance. Images of the 2 fleets appeared on screen. Thousands of sleek warships arranged in perfect formations. Both sides prepared for traditional galactic warfare. Formal challenges were issued. Honor. Guards were selected. Battle schedules were established. Battle schedules? Haijin asked. Yes, civilized warfare requires proper scheduling. Both sides must agree when battles will happen, where they will be fought, and what rules will apply. Sojin felt confused emotions from her friends. That seems strange. It is how all galactic conflicts work, the voice explained. War is not about destroying your enemy. It is about proving your point and reaching an agreement. New images appeared, battle plans, supply routes, diplomatic protocols. The war was expected to last 35 years. Total casualties were estimated at 847 beings across both fleets. Most deaths would come from accidents, not combat. 847 beings out of millions? Wu Jin asked. Correct. Galactic warfare is very safe. Ships have excellent life support systems. Weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. When a ship is damaged, the crew is rescued by both sides. Taeho's crystal skin grew brighter with curiosity. What changed when humans arrived? The screen showed a single small ship approaching the 2 massive fleets, the UES determination. 1 human vessel with 200 crew members. They were invited as neutral observers by the Galactic Council. Just observers? Minsu asked. Yes, humans were new to galactic society. The Council thought watching a civilized conflict would teach them proper military protocols. The image zoomed in on the human ship. It was tiny compared to the alien vessels around it. Its design was different too, more angular, with strange weapons that did not match anything in the galactic database. The human commander was Captain G1 Park. She requested permission to study both fleets and their battle plans. Study them? Sojin asked. To learn, she said. To understand how galactic warfare works. What happened next? Taeho asked, though he was starting to feel worried about the answer. Captain Park spent 2 days reviewing all available information. Fleet positions, supply lines, communication networks, manufacturing facilities, civilian infrastructure, political structures, economic systems. Wu Jin interrupted. Why did she need to know about civilian infrastructure? The war was only about mining rights. That is what the Kethan Alliance commanders asked. Captain Park said she wanted to understand the complete tactical picture. The screen showed charts and graphs that meant nothing to the students. But the BOR archive voice continued explaining. On the 3rd day, Captain Park requested a meeting with both fleet commanders. She said she had questions about their battle plans. What questions? Haijin asked. She asked why they were fighting. over asteroid mining rights when both civilizations depended on food imports from 3 different systems. The students looked at each other with confusion. She asked why they were scheduling battles near their communication relay stations. She asked why their manufacturing planets had no military protection while their mining fleets were at Tau Ceti. She asked why their civilian governments had not prepared for disruptions to trade routes. Minsu's tongue flicked out nervously. Those are strange questions for a military observer. The fleet commanders thought so too. They explained that these things were not relevant to their conflict. Wars were fought between military forces, not civilian populations. What did Captain Park say to that? The room became very quiet. Even the archive system seemed to pause before answering. She said that was interesting. Then she asked both commanders to surrender immediately. Surrender? Taeho's skin flashed bright blue with shock. Before the war even started? The commanders refused, of course. They explained that surrender was not possible until proper battles had been fought and honor had been satisfied. Then what happened? Captain Park returned to her ship. 18 minutes later, both fleets surrendered unconditionally. The silence in the room was complete. Sojin could feel waves of confusion and fear from her friends. How? Woojin finally asked. Did the humans attack? No weapons were fired. No ships were damaged. No beings were injured. And how did she make them surrender? Captain Park demonstrated that she could destroy both civilizations without fighting their fleets at all. New images appeared on the screen. Star maps showing trade routes, communication networks, and supply lines. While the fleets were at Tau Ceti preparing for their ritual combat, Captain Park had identified every critical system that kept both civilizations running. The images showed how food, medicine, and manufactured goods moved between planets. How communication networks connected different worlds. How power systems and life support depended on regular maintenance. She sent messages to both sides explaining exactly how she could disrupt each system, not with weapons, just with knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Haijin asked, though her voice was very quiet. Trade route schedules could be shared with pirates. Communication codes could be given to their enemies. Manufacturing facilities could be shut down with simple computer viruses. Food shipments could be delayed or misdirected. Taeho felt sick. She threatened to destroy their entire civilizations. No, she offered to solve their problem for them. What problem? Captain Park explained that the asteroid mining dispute was not about mining rights. It was about political leaders on both sides trying to distract their people from economic problems. The screen showed economic data that the students could barely understand. Both civilizations were having trouble with unemployment and resource distribution. Their leaders started the war to give people something else to think about. That is, Sojin struggled to find words. That is horrible. Captain Park thought so too. So she offered a better solution. Instead of a 35-year war that would waste resources and solve nothing, she would help both sides address their real problems. How? By making it impossible for their leaders to continue the war. What did she do? The BOR archive voice was quiet for a moment. She sent detailed information about both civilizations' real economic and political problems to the news networks of 12 different systems. The students stared at the screen in shock. She also sent copies of The Secret, communications between the leaders who had planned the fake war. And she sent evidence showing how the war would make the economic problems worse, not better. Within hours, both civilizations were dealing with angry populations who demanded answers. The war became impossible to continue. Minsu's scales were rattling loudly now. She destroyed their governments. She forced them to be honest with their people. Both civilizations had to make real changes to solve their real problems. The war became unnecessary. Taeho understood now why Professor Dongho had been worried. She did not fight a war at all. No, she solved the problem that had caused the war. In 18 minutes, the analysis took longer. The solution was implemented in 18 minutes. Ra suddenly gasped and her eyes returned to normal. The glow faded from her skin and she looked exhausted. "Are you okay?" Sojin asked, feeling Biora's tiredness. "I am fine. But now I understand why you are all so worried." Bora rubbed her temples. "The archive system is scared." "Scared of what?" "Of humans. Of what they might do if they ever decided to solve other problems." Woojin looked at the now blank screen. The G. Namjoon arrived at their study group 3 days later. The military historian from Proxima Centauri was older than most students, having served in 2 different fleet academies before coming to Kepler 442c. His blue-gray skin and 4 arms made him look intimidating, but his voice was always gentle. "Hyjin told me you are researching the Tau Ceti incident," he said, settling his large frame into a reinforced chair. "I may be able to help. You know about it?" Taeho asked. "My grandfather was there. He commanded a support vessel in the Tau Ceti Alliance fleet." Sojin felt a spike of interest from all her friends. "He was actually at the battle?" "Yes, and he is still alive, very old, but his memory is perfect." Namjoon pulled out a small recording device. "He agreed to let me share his testimony with you, but he made me promise something first." "What?" Minsu asked. "That you will understand this is not a story about heroes and villains. This is a story about different ways of thinking." Woojin leaned forward. "We understand." Namjoon activated the recording device. An old voice began to speak, translated into Galactic Standard. "My name is Admiral Sunwoo of the Tau Ceti Alliance Fleet. I am 312 years old. I have fought in 6 galactic conflicts and studied military history for most of my life. But nothing prepared me for what I saw when the humans arrived." The recording paused, and they could hear the old admiral taking a deep breath. "We were excited when we heard humans would observe our conflict. They were new to galactic society, and we wanted to show them how civilized beings conducted warfare. Our fleet was beautiful, 10,000 ships in perfect formation, every vessel clean and polished. Our weapons were set to minimum power for the ritual combats. Our medical ships were ready to rescue anyone who was injured. The Keth fleet was equally impressive. Their formation was different from ours, but just as disciplined. We had been planning this conflict for 2 years. Every battle was scheduled. Every engagement would follow proper protocols." Taeho interrupted the recording. "It really sounds like a ceremony, not a war," Namjoon nodded. "That is how galactic warfare works. It is more like a very serious competition." The recording continued. "When the human ship arrived, we were surprised by how small it was. The UES Determination was maybe 1/10 the size of our smallest combat vessel, but Captain Park was welcomed with full honors. She asked to review our battle plans. This was normal. Observers often want to understand what they are watching. We were proud to show her our strategies, but her questions were ... strange." The old voice became thoughtful. She asked why we scheduled our battles during the day shift when most of our crews were awake. She wanted to know why we attacked the enemy's strongest positions instead of their weakest. She wondered why we announced our attack plans in advance. We explained that these were the rules of civilized warfare. Fair combat requires equal information and equal opportunity. Captain Park nodded and took notes. She seemed to understand. Then she asked different questions. About our supply lines, about our communication systems, about what would happen to our civilian populations if the war lasted longer than expected. We told her not to worry about such things. Military conflicts do not involve civilian systems. That would be barbaric. Sojin felt uncomfortable emotions from the recording. Fear, confusion, and something else she could not identify. The admiral's voice continued. On the 3rd day, Captain Park requested a meeting with both fleet commanders. She said she had learned a lot about galactic warfare and wanted to share her observations. We gathered in the neutral meeting space between our fleets. Captain Park was alone. She had not brought any advisors or weapons. She thanked us for teaching her about civilized conflict. Then she asked if we wanted to end the war immediately. We laughed. We explained that the war had barely begun. No battles had been fought, no honor had been earned. No point had been proven. Captain Park said she understood. Then she asked us to look at the display screens around the meeting room. The recording became very quiet. When the Admiral spoke again, his voice was different, older, more tired. What we saw changed everything we thought we knew about warfare. The screens showed real-time images of our home systems. Not just our fleets at Tau Ceti, but our actual homeworlds. Captain Park had somehow gained access to our civilian communication networks. She was watching our cities, our factories, our farms, our schools. She showed us live images of our families. Minsu's scales began to rattle. She threatened civilians? Namjoon shook his head. Listen. Captain Park never threatened anyone. Instead, she explained what she had learned about our civilizations. She knew that the Keth economy depended on importing 78% of their food. She knew which planets grew. That food, which ships carried it, and when it would arrive. She knew that Alliance communication systems used relay stations that required maintenance every 30 days. She knew who performed that maintenance and what would happen if they were delayed. She knew about our power grids, our water systems, our transportation networks. She knew how everything worked and what would happen if any part stopped working. But most importantly, she knew that our war was fake. Taeho's crystal skin flashed bright blue. Fake? The recording continued. Captain Park had analyzed our economic data, our political systems, and our social structures. She had discovered that both our governments had created this conflict to distract our populations from domestic problems. She showed us proof, communication logs between our leaders, economic reports they had hidden from their people, evidence that the asteroid mining rights were not even valuable. Both fleets had been sent to fight a war that served no purpose except to keep our citizens from asking difficult questions about unemployment and resource distribution. Sojin felt waves of shame and anger from the recording. The soldiers did not know. We had no idea. We thought we were fighting for important principles. Instead, we were just participants in a political theater. But Captain Park offered us a choice. What choice? Woojin asked. We could continue our fake war, and she would make sure our populations learned the truth about why we were really fighting. Or we could end the war immediately and work together to solve the real problems our civilizations were facing. She gave us 18 minutes to decide. The recording was quiet for a long moment. 18 minutes to choose between shame and cooperation. We chose cooperation. Both fleets surrendered. Not to each other, but to the idea that we had been manipulated by our own leaders. When we returned home, everything had changed. Our governments had to admit what they had done. Our people demanded real solutions to real problems, and they got them. Both civilizations are stronger now than they were before the war. The recording ended, leaving the students in silence. That is not the end of the story, Namjoon said quietly. What else happened? Haijin asked. My grandfather asked to Captain Park how she had learned so much about their civilization so quickly. What did she say? She said it was not difficult. She just looked at their systems the way a human would look at them. What does that mean? Namjoon's forearms moved in a gesture that meant uncertainty. According to my grandfather, Captain Park explained that humans do not see military targets and civilian targets as different things. They see systems, networks, dependencies. When humans look at a civilization, they see how all the parts connect. They see what would happen if any part stopped working. They see vulnerabilities that other species never think about. Minsu asked the question they were all thinking. Is that why humans are prohibited from galactic warfare? Partly, Namjoon replied, but there is more. More? After Tau Ceti, the Galactic Council interviewed Captain Park and her crew. They wanted to understand how humans think about conflict. What did they learn? Namjoon looked at each of them carefully. They learned that what happened at Tau Ceti was not special human military training. It was just how humans naturally think about problems. Captain Park was not a military genius. She was an ordinary human ship captain who looked at a situation and asked logical questions. Taeho felt his crystal skin dimming with fear. You mean any human could have done what she did? Any human with access to the same information, yes. The room became very quiet as they processed this information. That is why humans are prohibited from warfare, Namjoon continued. Not because they are too violent, not because they are too dangerous, but because they think about conflict in a completely different way. They do not see war as a ritual or a ceremony. They see it as a problem to be solved as quickly and efficiently as possible. And if solving the problem requires looking at things other species consider off-limits, Namjoon shrugged with all four arms. Humans do not understand why anything should be off-limits. Sojin spoke for all of them. That is terrifying. Yes, Namjoon agreed. It is. As they left the study room that night, each student wondered. The same thing. They had human classmates, human teachers, human friends. How many problems were those humans quietly noticing? And what would happen if they ever decided to solve them? Professor Inho had been waiting for them. The ancient Altarian stood in the Academy's oldest classroom, the one used for special lectures and important ceremonies. His silver hair reflected the morning light, and his deep purple eyes held the wisdom of someone who had lived for over 800 years. "Please sit," he said as the 6 students entered nervously. Taeho, Minsu, Sojin, Woojin, Haijin, Biora, and Namjoon had been summoned by individual messages. None of them had expected to find the others there. "You have been researching the Tau Ceti incident," Professor Inho said. It was not a question. Taeho's crystal skin dimmed with worry. "Yes, Professor. And you have learned some disturbing things about human military capabilities." "We were just trying to understand," Sojin said quickly. "We did not mean to break any rules." Professor Inho smiled gently. "You have not broken any rules. In fact, you have done exactly what I hoped you would do." The students looked at each other with confusion. "You hoped we would research restricted files?" Woojin asked. "I hoped you would ask the right questions. And more importantly, I hoped you would be ready to hear the answers." Professor Inho moved to the front of the classroom and activated the main display. Images of the Galactic Council appeared, thousands of representatives from every known species. "I was there when the Council made the decision about humans," he said. "I was one of the youngest members representing the Altarian delegation." "You were on the Galactic Council?" Haijin asked with surprise. "For 200 years, I saw the galaxy change in many ways, but nothing prepared me for the debate about humanity." "What happened?" Minsu asked. Professor Inho touched the display and knew. Images appeared. Documents, recordings, and testimony from the council sessions. After the Tau Ceti incident, every species wanted to understand what had happened. We interviewed Captain Park and her crew. We studied human history, human psychology, and human approaches to conflict. "What did you learn?" Ba-Ra asked quietly. "We learned that everything we thought we knew about warfare was wrong." The professor paused and looked at each student carefully. "You have discovered that humans think about conflict differently, but do you understand why?" Taeho shook his head. "We know they see systems and connections that others miss." "That is true, but it is not the whole answer. The real difference is deeper than tactical thinking." Professor Inho changed the display to show evolutionary charts and biological data. Every species on the Galactic Council evolved from prey. Animals, Zentarians, vegans, Altarians, Procyon, all of us. Our ancestors survived by hiding, running, or forming defensive groups. "What does that mean?" Namjoon asked. "It means that our concept of conflict is fundamentally defensive. Even when we fight wars, we are really trying to protect something: territory, resources, honor, family." "That makes sense," Sojin said. "Yes, and it is why galactic warfare developed the way it did: ritualized combat, formal rules, limited casualties. These things evolved because species like ours never wanted to fight in the first place. War became a way to resolve disputes without actually hurting anyone very much." The display changed again, showing images of Earth and its many predator species. Humans are different. They evolved from persistence predators on what they call a deathworld. "Deathworld?" Minsu's scales rattled nervously. A planet where almost everything is trying to kill you. Predators, diseases, weather, natural disasters. For millions of years, humans survived by hunting, adapting, and solving deadly problems quickly. They did not survive by running away or hiding. They survived by identifying threats and eliminating them completely. Wu Jin leaned forward. So, when humans see a conflict, they do not see a ritual to be performed or a dispute to be managed. They see a problem to be solved permanently. The room became very quiet as the students processed this information. That is why Captain Park did what she did at Tau Ceti, Professor Inho continued. She did not think about fighting a war. She thought about solving the problem that had caused the war. And she solved it the way humans solve all problems, by understanding the complete system and changing whatever needs to be changed. Teho felt his crystal skin flickering with understanding and fear. The council was afraid that humans would solve all conflicts this way? Worse than that. The council was afraid that humans would realize most galactic conflicts do not need to exist at all. What do you mean? Professor Enho activated a new display showing statistics about galactic warfare over the past 1,000 years. Look at these numbers. In 1,000 years, the galaxy has experienced 2,847 major conflicts. Do you know how many were caused by actual resource scarcity or unavoidable territorial disputes? The students studied the data. Haijin spoke first. Less than 5%? Exactly. The vast majority of galactic wars are caused by political manipulation, economic inequality, social instability, or simple misunderstandings. Problems that could be solved without any fighting at all. If humans were allowed to participate in galactic conflicts, they would not just win those conflicts. They would eliminate the reasons for conflict to exist. Or ask the question they were all thinking, is that bad? Professor Inho was quiet for a long moment. That depends on your perspective. From one perspective, humans could create a galaxy without war. No more death, no more destruction, no more waste of resources on meaningless conflicts. From another perspective, humans could remake galactic civilization according to their own ideas about how problems should be solved. And from a third perspective, most species would lose the social and cultural institutions they have built around ritualized conflict. Sojin felt complex emotions from her friends. Hope, fear, curiosity, and confusion all mixed together. What did the council decide? She asked. The debate lasted for 3 months. Every species had a different opinion. Some wanted to ban humans completely from galactic society. Others wanted to learn from them. A few wanted to recruit them as military advisors. But in the end, we reached a unanimous decision. The first and only unanimous decision in council history. What decision? Humans would be allowed full participation in galactic society, with one restriction. They could not participate in military conflicts between other species. They could defend themselves if attacked. They could provide humanitarian aid. They could offer diplomatic solutions. But they could not fight in wars that did not directly involve them. Namjoon frowned. That seems like discrimination. It was presented as protection. Protection for other species from human military efficiency. But also protection for humans from the burden of solving everyone else's problems. You think humans would try to solve all galactic conflicts? Teho asked. I think humans would not be able to stop themselves. It is their nature to see problems and fix them. Professor Inho changed the display one more time. Now it showed images of human students. At the academy, students they all recognized. The humans who study here are some of the most restrained and careful individuals of their species. They have been selected specifically because they understand the restrictions and agree to follow them, but even they struggle with it. Have you noticed that human students never participate in strategic planning exercises? That they are not allowed to take advanced combat courses? That is not because they lack ability. It is because their instructors are afraid of what they might suggest. Wu Jin looked at the images of their human classmates. Are they dangerous? They are the opposite of dangerous. They are so effective at solving problems that they make everyone else feel helpless. Imagine if every conflict in the galaxy could be resolved in 72 hours. Imagine if no one ever had to fight or die for political games. Imagine if all problems could be solved quickly and permanently. That sounds wonderful, Minsu said. It does, but it would also mean the end of the galaxy as we know it. No more warrior cultures, no more military academies, no more honor earned through combat, no more slow, careful diplomacy. Humans would not destroy our civilizations, but they would change them so completely that we might not recognize them anymore. The students sat in silence, trying to understand what they had learned. Is that why you let us research this? Hyjin asked finally. So we would understand? Yes, because you will graduate soon and become officers in various galactic fleets. You will work alongside humans. You will be their friends and colleagues. And when that happens, you will sometimes see them looking at situations with that particular human expression. The one that says they see a problem that could be solved. When that happens, you need to understand what you are seeing. And you need to decide whether you want to stop them or help them. Professor Inho turned off the display and looked at each student. The restriction on human military participation will not last forever. Someday the galaxy will face a crisis so severe that we will have no choice but to ask for human help. When that day comes, everything will change. The question is, will we be ready for the galaxy that humans will create when they solve our problems for us? As the students left the classroom, each of them carried a new understanding of their human friends, and a new question about what kind of future they wanted for the galaxy. 2 weeks had passed since Professor Inho's revelation. Taeho found himself watching the human students differently now. During meals, he noticed how they listened to conversations about galactic politics. During classes, he saw how they took notes when other students discussed conflicts between their home systems. Most disturbing of all, he saw the expression Professor Inho had warned them about. That look of quiet analysis, as if the humans were seeing problems that others could not. You are staring again, Minsu said as they walked to their strategic planning class. I cannot help it, Taeho replied. Look at Jaemin over there. He is reading about the Rigel trade dispute. They watched their human classmates scanning through news reports on his tablet. Jaemin's face showed the same focused concentration that Captain Park must have had when she studied the Tau Ceti situation. Maybe he is just interested in current events, Sojin suggested, but her empathic abilities were picking up something else. He feels ... frustrated. Frustrated about what? Wu Jin asked. I think he sees solutions that no one is trying. Before they could discuss it further, alarms began sounding throughout the academy. Emergency lights flashed, and an announcement echoed through the corridors. All students report to designated safe areas immediately. This is not a drill. The four friends ran toward the main assembly hall along with hundreds of other students. The human students ran too, but Taeho noticed they were asking different questions, while alien students asked, "What is happening? And are we safe?" The humans asked, "Where is the threat coming from? And what resources do we have available?" In the assembly hall, Dean Veltar took the stage. The elderly Andromedan looked worried as she addressed the crowd. Students, we have received urgent news from the Kepler system. 2 neighboring civilizations have begun military operations against each other. The conflict zone includes this system. Worried murmurs filled the hall. Kepler 442c was supposed to be neutral territory, protected by galactic treaties. The situation is complicated, Dean Veltar continued. The hegemony of Drex and the Coalition of Free Worlds both claim rights to the shipping lanes around our system. Neither side wants to harm the Academy, but we are in the middle of their conflict zone, completed Professor Dongho as he joined the dean on stage. Correct. Both fleets are demanding that we choose a side. If we support one, the other will consider us an enemy. If we remain neutral, both sides may decide we are a threat to their operations. Students began talking loudly, sharing fears and suggestions. The alien students mostly worried about evacuation procedures and diplomatic solutions, but Teho noticed the human students had gone completely quiet. They were not talking at all. Instead, they were listening to everything and taking notes. "The Galactic Council is sending mediators," Dean Veltar announced, "but they will not arrive for 3 weeks. Until then, we must find a way to protect the Academy without taking sides in this conflict." "What about asking for military protection?" called out a vegan student. "From whom?" Professor Dongho replied. "Any military force we request will be seen as choosing a side." "We could evacuate," suggested an Andromedan. 40,000 students, faculty, and staff? Where would we go? And who would guarantee our safety during the evacuation? The debate continued for an hour, but no good solutions emerged. Finally, Dean Veltar dismissed the assembly with instructions to remain calm and wait for updates. As students filed out of the hall, Teho saw something that made his crystal skin flash with recognition. The human students were gathering in a small group near the exit. They were talking quietly and urgently. "We need to follow them," he told his friends. "Why?" Minsu asked. "Because they have that look?" Sojin closed her eyes and reached out with her empathic senses. "They feel determined and worried, but not afraid." "Not afraid of the conflict?" Wu Jin asked. "Not afraid of anything. They feel like they have work to do." The friends followed the human students at a distance. The group included Jaemin, Yujin, Daeyoung, Subin, and about 12 others. They went to an unused classroom in the Academy's oldest building. Teho and his friends positioned themselves where they could listen through the partially open door. "The situation is clear," they heard Yujin saying. "Two civilizations are about to fight a war that neither of them actually wants." "Agreed," said Jaemin. "I have been tracking the Drex Coalition dispute for months. It started as a trade disagreement, but politicians on both sides have escalated it for domestic reasons." "What kind of domestic reasons?" asked another voice. "Standard pattern. Economic problems at home, so the leaders create an external threat to distract their populations." Teho felt his crystal skin grow cold. It was exactly what had happened at Tau Ceti. "The shipping lane dispute is not even real," continued Jaemin. "Both sides have enough access for their needs, but admitting that would mean admitting they wasted resources preparing for war. So what do we do?" asked Subin. "We solve the problem," said Daeyoung simply. "We are not allowed," Yujin reminded him. "The restriction protocols are very clear. The restrictions say we cannot participate in military conflicts between other species," Daeyoung replied. "But this is not a military conflict yet. And it does not have to become one. What are you suggesting?" "We help both sides find a face-saving way to end the dispute before anyone gets hurt." "How?" Teho heard the sound of tablets being activated and data being shared. "I have been analyzing both civilizations' economic and political structures," Jaemin said. "The real problems are unemployment in the Drex system and resource distribution issues in the coalition." "Those are solvable problems," said Yujin. "Much easier to solve than a war. But how do we help them solve those problems without violating the restrictions?" "We make suggestions through intermediaries," suggested Subin. "The Academy has diplomatic connections with both sides. That could work. But we need to be very careful about how we present the solutions." Sojin grabbed Teho's arm. "We should tell someone," she whispered, "if the humans are planning something." "Wait," Teho replied. "Let us hear what they are actually planning." Through the door they heard Daeyoung speaking again. "The key is to give both sides something they can claim as a victory. Not military victory, but political victory." "How?" "We show them how cooperating on the shipping lanes could solve their domestic problems better than fighting over them." "Explain." "The Drex unemployment problem is caused by reduced manufacturing. If they cooperated with the coalition on shipping, they could increase trade and create jobs. And the coalition's resource distribution problems could be solved with better logistics. Shared shipping lanes would make distribution more efficient. So, instead of fighting over the shipping lanes, they could partner to use them more effectively?" "Exactly. Both sides get what they really need, and no one has to admit they were wrong about the original dispute. Wu Jin looked amazed. They are solving the war before it starts. Just like Captain Park did, Minsu whispered. But how will they get both sides to listen? Haijin asked quietly, as if answering her question. They heard Yujin speaking. We present the solution as coming from the Academy's diplomatic department. Dean Veltar can offer it as a neutral suggestion for protecting the Academy. Both sides will think we are just trying to avoid being caught in their conflict, agreed Jae-min. They will not realize we are actually solving their real problems. How long will this take? Asked Su-bin. If we work through the night, we can have a complete proposal ready by morning. Economic analysis, political framework, implementation timeline, everything. And if both sides accept, the conflict ends before it begins. The Academy is safe, both civilizations solve their real problems, and no one ever has to know that humans were involved. Taeho and his friends looked at each other with amazement and fear. They are going to do it, Sojin whispered. They are going to solve the entire conflict in one night. Should we stop them? Minsu asked. Why would we stop them? Woo-jin replied, they are trying to prevent a war. Because Professor Inho was right, Taeho said slowly. This is how it starts. First they solve one problem, then another, then another. Is that bad? Baora asked. She had joined them during the conversation. I do not know, Taeho admitted. But I know it changes everything. They listened for a few more minutes as the human students organized their work. Each one took responsibility for analyzing different aspects of the conflict. They worked with the same focused efficiency that Captain Park had shown at Tau Ceti. We should go, Haijin said finally. They have work to do. As they walked back toward their dormitories, Namjoon caught up with them. You heard? He asked. You were listening too? Many people were listening. Word is spreading throughout the Academy. What do you mean? Alien students are starting to understand what human students can do. And they are starting to ask themselves the same question you are asking. What question? Do we want to live in a galaxy where humans solve all our problems for us? That night, none of them slept well. Through their windows, they could see lights burning in the classroom where the human students worked. By morning, news spread that Dean Veltar had received an elegant diplomatic proposal that offered both sides of the conflict exactly what they needed. The proposal was so perfectly crafted that both the Hijemo